Hi there, welcome to my studio and welcome to the Mastering Colour course. I'm Richard. I've been a professional painter since 2001 and an art tutor for nearly as long as that. I've been making these videos for the internet for a couple of years and they've been doing really well. Over 90,000 people have seen the videos so far around the world. And I asked these people what was the main problem that they had with painting, what was the biggest stumbling block. And an amazing 72% said that colour was the biggest problem. So if colour is your biggest problem, then join the club and you're in good company. So I thought, hey, I know a bit about colour, I'll do a painting lesson on colour. But it was only when I started trying to write down exactly what I knew about colour that I realised just how little I did know and how much I've been painting and doing my colour work instinctually. So I started learning again. I bought every colour book that I could get my hands on, every DVD. I scoured the internet for months and months looking for the best online resources. And eventually I started teaching workshops where I used my guinea pig students to test out my new information and my new teaching techniques. And it was there that I really learned what was the best way to simplify this really complex subject and help them learn it in a really practical way. We had some great little paintings come out of those workshops, but what was really special to me was that moment when the light came on in their heads and they began to understand what I was showing them. You see, once you gain understanding and control over colour, it completely turns it around from being a real worry to being an adventure and a real joy. So some of the stuff we're going to cover in this course is colour theory, seeing colour, describing colour, values, mixing colour, manipulating colour, colour harmony and light effects. So hopefully by the end of this course you'll have saved yourself years of struggle and have a real thorough understanding of colour and how to use it with real confidence in your paintings. So let's get started with the history of colour theory.
I think it's important to know where we've come from in terms of our understanding of colour so that we can see clearly where we are at the moment and know what discoveries led us to this point. I don't want to bore you with the physics of light and everything, so I'll just give you a brief overview and make sure that you know roughly how it all works so you don't go believing something like what Plato first hypothesized in his emanation theory, that an inner fire gives rise to visual rays shooting outward from the eye, interacting with the outer rays and thereby allowing objects to be seen. Newton showed us in the 1700s that white light from our sun contains all the colours of the spectrum, the ones you can see in a rainbow plus a whole bunch of others that we can't see like ultraviolet and infrared. He then noticed the similarity between red and violet at either end of the spectrum and joined them together, making a circle, the colour wheel as we know it. This was the birth of modern colour theory. That knowledge didn't become practically useful to artists until Michel Chevreul, who managed the production of dyes for a French tapestry manufacturer, made the remarkable discovery that an intense dye colour would produce the appearance of colour on surrounding neutral areas, and that this new perceived colour was almost directly opposite the original colour on Newton's colour wheel. Let's have a look at this visual phenomenon. Keep your eye in the middle of the orange square for the next 20 seconds. You'll see when I remove the square that a blue afterimage is formed in your eye. And blue just happens to be the complementary colour of orange, meaning it's directly opposite orange on the colour wheel. Again in France, the painter Eugène Delacroix used these new discoveries to further his realistic lighting effects. He learned things like red cloth has greenish shadows, and the shadows of yellow objects have a tinge of violet in them. In doing this, he was able to break away from the classical dark backgrounds and the dull tonal treatment of shadows, and introduce colour into shadows, effectively making the whole painting more vibrant. He was later reported to say that, "I can paint the skin of a goddess with mud, provided you let me surround it with the right colors." This is actually possible too. If you surround a warm grey with a strong blue, it will actually resemble Caucasian flesh. The Impressionists were inspired by Delacroix's discoveries, and aided by the invention of a wider range of more vibrant paints, sold in easily transportable tubes, they painted outdoors in search of a more meaningful expression of natural light and colour. Instead, they tended to paint in a mid or high key and add complements to their lighter shadows. These artists included Monet, Renoir and Pissarro. In London at the same time, Joseph Turner was exploring bold colour and atmospheric effects, which also had an effect on the work of the Impressionists. Meanwhile, Georges Seurat developed a very technical approach to colour, a painstaking method called pointillism, which attempted to mix colours visually on the canvas rather than on the palette. To make a green, for example, he would place a small stroke of blue beside one of yellow, so that from a distance the two colours combine in the eye to create a more vibrant green than what can be achieved by mixing colour on a palette. This is in fact how a modern 4-colour printing press works, by placing tiny dots of pure colour next to each other to create an image in the eye. The process is just too taxing for most artists though, so pointillism as a movement didn't last for very long. Post-Impressionists like Paul Gauguin and Van Gogh learned the techniques of the Impressionists but began to use colour in a more emotional manner. They were less concerned with the actual appearance of light and atmosphere than with emphasising the beauty of pure colour and line in a fairly flat picture plane. Van Gogh felt that colours had symbolic meaning. To him, yellow symbolised love and light, red and green conveyed passion and conflict, deep blue was the colour of spiritual rest, and grey was associated with surrender. Paul Cézanne's later work can be seen as one of the bridges between the art of the 19th century and the 20th century. He used colour almost as a chisel to shape objects, where he enjoyed the contrast of greyed colour with saturated colour. He wrote, "When the colour achieves richness, the form attains its fullness also." His work, along with others, inspired the Cubists, Expressionists and Fauves, who all used colour in an arbitrary fashion, no longer concerned with representing nature and her richness, but turning more to the inner world of the artist to draw inspiration from. So postmodernism was born, and a gap of some 100 years ensued until today, when we are seeing a resurgence in the academic popularity of representational art. Over that time though, there have been artists who have kept the flame alive and passed it along to their own students, safeguarding the knowledge that was hard won over many years. Some include Russian painter Sergei Bongard, American Charles Hawthorne and Henry Hench. So through all these artists' efforts and many more, we now have a good understanding of what we can achieve with colour and painting. We're standing on the top of a mountain of discoveries and achievements, and we're now in the enviable position of having the knowledge and technology to achieve with paint a range and depth of colour expression that was simply not possible in the past. So the next chapters are going to walk you through discovering your own power with colour, so you too can climb up the mountain and see what the view is like from up there.